Thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon. I'm very extremely pleased to be here, also for the subject of the symposium, and also because of the place. No? Because in fact, probably some of you know, I've been in a certain period of my life coming here quite often, because for some professional work, but also been involved in some discussions in this province of Brabant. I would like to address, according to the request, certain ideas that I'm going to be brief about the public space and the role of the public space today, and keeping in mind the public space as what I'm going to defend as what I feel the main glue for the city, as the element that makes civic life possible. In fact, it's very clear when we see this image that our wall, mainly we can say the European wall, I put Western because I'm going to point out some examples that perhaps are not from Europe, but our cities are being debated between these two models. But we can see the old city that in general everybody feels comfortable with, and the modern city, which sometimes we blame, saying, well, the modern city created a disaster for our cities, it's a wrong model. I wouldn't go so far, because I feel the modern city produced a clear improvement and a great revolution on the living conditions on the 20th century. But this model is no longer interesting, no longer feasible. And that is what I like to develop, because that doesn't mean that between A and B we have to make our choice, but it seems to me that what is happening in many European cities, and now is going also elsewhere, is that probably is emerging a new type of public space that is trying to reconsider some of the values of what I'm going to call the traditional space, but also it can incorporate the ambitions of this 21st century. And I think this is something I would like very much to point it out. Here you can see an image of the idea of the modern city that was very much rooted with the power of the buildings. The building should be good, should be efficient. It has to produce also a different sort of dwellings, and I think this is what the 20th century is about. And the other is more the image of the city that we feel familiar. It looks always like the city of yesterday. But we have to look at about the city of today and the city of the future. And then probably, I'm not so sure that the city of the past is the city we have to design for the future. We have to keep the city of the past, but perhaps we have to reinterpret that we have other ambitions. In fact, those are the places. I mean, this is an image of Italy, any city. That could be also some of the historical fragment of the Bosch, other cities, where you can see that buildings and public space are one unit, one thing. And that was the ambition at this moment. But of course, there are also very good examples of contemporary public space, like this famous Adrian Geuze Plaza in Rotterdam, that also is trying to create and to put on the table new values, new questions. Today we want the public space for other uses. And I think this is quite innovative issues that we have to put over the table. For instance, this is an image that everybody realized, this is Manhattan. For instance, Manhattan invented a system of a space that is what they call the POPs. That means POP, that means the public, the private open space that is used for public service. That, I think, is a very powerful idea also for the European cities, in the way that there are certain spaces that during the night, perhaps better they are closed. But during the day, they can gather a lot of people. You can see this image. Some of you are familiar with these spaces. Those are spaces right in the middle of Manhattan where you can sit, you can have a coffee or just sit and read the newspaper. But that is really public during the day. But in the evening, depending on the manager, could be closed off. There's a way there is a negotiation about what is like a space like this. Probably during the evening, it doesn't make sense to be open, but during the day, now it's like a collective that is like a public meeting in a sort of way. Yeah, that could be the same idea. By doing that, they create this program that is very powerful in a city that was already built by giving a certain extra volume. If you make a plaza for the public, even that the status of the land could be private, you can have a bonus in the way of you can build at the top of the building. And that is the mechanism that is working in the last 15 years and produces spaces that they are really quite well known. Some of you probably visit, and when you go to Manhattan, you pass this place and you feel that it is a place to be. It's a place nice to be, and it works quite well. Those are the elements that I feel we must take into consideration. When we are saying the public space is something that we want, and people loves the public space, perhaps it's not exactly like it was in the 19th century. We have other needs today. And that, I think, is something that we like. For instance, when we refer to the Barcelona experience, that probably is quite well known, but I don't show you Barcelona as the paradigm to say, well, like Barcelona did, there are many other European cities, even some cities in this country, that they did gigantic efforts, even Denfos, on the public space. And I think by doing that, you recover and you see that the people love the public space. The case of Barcelona is, in the last 25 years, the city built 250 plazas. It's a lot. Even myself, that been involved in the development of Barcelona, even some walking 1 week into the city, I discover new places, because it's something that, because the people love, then politicians follow. Because in fact, the people like them. Then why we shouldn't make new gardens, small plazas, or whatever. You can see many of them. You can see these. I mean, some of you perhaps visit the city, and then you see these, and people say, okay, the design of Barcelona is always very sophisticated. It is sophisticated, but it was not sophisticated, because some people feel, because Barcelona is nice today, and you see Gaudí from late 19th century, it seems that Barcelona has been always very beautiful. No. When you look at this project, look at the project, but please, give me a favor, look at the surroundings of the project. You would see how banal the architecture of the city was in the 70s. Very poor architecture. And then by creating value into the public space, you change the value of the whole city. And I think this is the powerful of the public space in these type of conditions. You can see another example. You see today, this is one of the most beautiful projects in my eyes, is Via Giulia, in the north of the city. It's a place that never a tourist go there. It's not the center of the city. But look at the way it was before. Then, by making place for the cars, because the people are having cars, and then putting the public transportation, the subway, underground, you create a sort of a space where today are a lot of small bars and but the buildings are exactly the same. The population is the same. And I think this is the value of the public space. You can change the value of this space, but you don't need to remove the population, which I think is very important, because we were used after the World War II that the renewal of the city was removing everything, the buildings, the infrastructure, and the people as well, and then making a new beautiful city. But anyway, what we do with the population that is already engaged in this area, that probably is something that is important. Or you can see spaces that this is a former quarry, it was abandoned in the middle of the city in Barcelona, that can be also reuse space with some water. I mean, we don't have many water, and then we love the water. Probably you are fed up of the water, and sometimes you feel, well, it's enough water, we don't want. But anyway, when you don't have water, you love the water. It's always that. That's For instance, other considerations about the design of the public space. Many times we said the design of the public space is something that is done on the map, is a 2D. Only 2 dimensions. You never get the third dimension. And I think it's very important to see how the third dimension can emerge. Like these guys did in Manhattan, we can do that today as well. That is the way we can create mechanisms by doing that space which is really flat, because like this space, this is in Italy, a city that the name is Alghero. Perhaps you don't know this city, but it's a quite beautiful, in front of the sea, touristic place. That during the winter, they have 60,000 inhabitants. During the summer, 300,000. It's another city. And then you have to prepare spaces for these people that they are coming, they enjoy the beach, they want to do, and then if you make buffers, and then the public space, otherwise these people are killing the real inhabitants, because they are really over the pressure of the city. And those are the strategy of that. And then, in this project, I mean, because it's very, you can see, in fact, it's very, what you do in this space is creating spaces for the bicycles, the car on the upper part, but also then you make places for the bicycles, and then you can see here, well, the movement of the bicycles and the public transportation, and later the cars. In some way, you try to create the possibility that this city can work in the winter, but also during the summer. That could be the strategy. And by the way, here we discovered this painting that explains how was this alga, this plant that comes from the sea. And then by doing that, you can see on the pavement the same element. You can see that the pavement is reflecting this element in a way that then the pavement here is flat. That's the space for the green, and then you have the bicycles and the cars. But all these elements are playing with that, trying always with this idea that even that should be flat, should be possible to clean, to run, to pass with the bicycle, anything, but at the same time can get certain value into the distance. And the way that in certain places then the green is taking over, and then you feel like a space where you can stay. No? The summer could be quite hot in these places. Or, for instance, in the exercise that we did with the city of Den Haag, in several projects, one after the other. That it was the first project we did for Den Haag, it was the Grotiusplatz, and later we moved into the Spuy, and then on the Beatrix in this area. But nevertheless, what for me is important, the idea that you can see the condition of this place. I mean, some of these places are quite well known for you. And then how by crafting the material and the public space, how you can make that in the pavement, that could be the design of the pavement, where the trees are going to be. I mean, those are the elements that then people realize that there is a care. Usually the care was always inside the buildings. Outside, designers don't used to take care because they feel public space is not something so important. We have to do the other way around. Probably by taking care of the public space, the people feel that public space is something that belongs to them as well. And then probably it will be cleaner. It will be easier to keep it clean. Again, the same story. You can see how the patterns of the pavement, even that later these elements could be quite simple, but they can reflect also certain other. And the view, when you are sitting, like here, we will appreciate it. We can see something better into the pavement. Perhaps this pavement is never considered. Somebody will look at this, and I'm sure we like a wall. We like to follow with the eyes what happened in the wall. I mean, but we don't need to be architects to realize that people are also very sensible to the aesthetics of the city. I mean, everybody likes that. I mean, you can see then this pavement can be suddenly converted into a fountain. That is something that works in this place, or along the Beatrix, trying to create a boulevard in the middle of the city. How was that possible? By the decision of the city, and that you need a political decision, saying in this place, that was really a place here you know this place quite well. This is the central station, and that's the Grotiusplatz. The central station is there. That was a place where there are the offices of the ING. I mean, some big offices are placed there, but it was like a place outside the city. It was dominated by the cars, a lot of cars and parkings. The city decided to put the public transportation and to force that the parkings should be reduced and should be put inside the block. And now today, you walk in this place and then you discover that there is a train, a light train, flying over into this place. And then inside the new buildings, you discover places like that. This is what we call a corporate garden, a place like this, but full of green. And then you discover that when it's bad weather, a lot of businesses inside these places. Because the people like informal meetings. And there are many things that happen in these type of places. I was there last week and I discovered how busy are those places that perhaps, again, like the Manhattan things, we have to invent places that during the evening this place is closed off, but during the day is very active. That is. You can see then the type of places. I mean, the type, you can create some places, but the bench should be something that can be also nice. Sometimes in the city we put too many benches. Better we put few of them, but nicer, in a way that then when you sit there, you feel that you are at home, in a way. You feel comfortable, but you are in open air. And if it's sun, like today was, then you enjoy the weather in the place. And then you can see again, this is 2D or 3D. I feel it's three-dimensional, even that, because the shadow of this flying over, reflected over the pavement, it produces a very special effect in the way. And then by using different materials, again, you try to make that the people imagine that the public space can also produce other type of effects. The last reference is this project in Nederlanden, next to near Rotterdam. Project where we were suggesting in this proposal that in fact is a very interesting, in my eyes, proposal in order to create a center into a new town, a new development, new residential development, something that can create an anchor to the city. Then we proposed this idea that at the beginning was considered quite crazy to say, well, in a flat land, something high, like the spires of the cathedral, I mean, some buildings will make clear where is the center. Very simple. But the same point here is that the creation of this land comes from extending the lake. And then by deepening the lake in some parts goes until 150 meters depth. With this land, you raise the ground. But even that, this ground is 3 meters below sea level. You know about the polders. But I think that's very interesting because then by doing this section, you can create a beach, which works quite well. So then the first image is something like that. You say, well, that we want the landmark, but what we want is to create a very domestic, quite simple beach. And then by creating a denivellation between the people that they are walking with the shoes and the people that they are walking touching the sun without shoes. And that makes different attitudes. People are very formal above, only detached 2 meters, sorry. Here you are 2 meters above, and this is By doing that, then you get something that could be quite important. Is going to be the front facade, the belvedere towards the beach, and then you have the development of this center. Then, of course, you create certain conditions with this view to the water, the view towards this small beach. It creates a special place, and now it's nice. Some of you perhaps visited the place, but it's becoming a small center because it's a village in a way. But nobody will go there if you don't have a place like a beach. And then the youngsters of this region goes there because it's nice and have a different feeling of the beach. And then the edges between, again, what is the natural space, which is that beach, and this pavement is what, in fact, is very important. How you can make that rise until 2 meters, how you can make the stairs, which are becoming something that it is like this. Then, of course, to get this element that is a very simple idea, how you can make the third dimension, you have to struggle how that can be possible to build with a land that you know, a recent created land is very unstable. How you can make a stable out of it. That is what this project is about. You get something that then this personnel, these youngsters, they enjoy because it's a place that's relatively small, it's only 800, 900 meters long, but they feel it belongs to the families in a way, in this place, because the other more kids people will go to Scheveningen, other beaches that they are more formal, but that is something. Just to summarize, I feel that in this type of, the point that I would like to make clear is that it seems to me that Europe rediscovered the public space. When we did that, and that happened in many cities, I insist also some Dutch cities are also gaining a lot of ground in this respect, but when that happened means that we are not just going back to the old city, which in fact has to be refurbished and should be a key element in our future development. But at the same time, we have to search for new strategies that can make also spaces that the people feel that they are new, that they are adding value to the existing city. And that is what I feel is important, and you have many strategies like the one in Rotterdam, the one that we saw in Manhattan, also this small example that I was showing either in Italy or in Rotterdam, small things that makes people feel that the city also is improving. The city of the future has also new values, new attitudes, and also can provide to the city new spaces for the civic gathering together. Thank you very much.